Well, hello, happy Thursday, and welcome to Elegant Sentiments today. I'm Sheryl Abernathy. I'm the owner of Elegant Sentiments, and this is our weekly card share number 92. We are sharing some Pinkfresh Studio products and, of course, my beautiful Lisha Horton inks. So let's go ahead and get started with today's project. We're going to be doing a little bit of foiling and some inking and so let me go ahead and show you these products. So what I have here is the part of the um, Blushing Blooms collection. This collection has the press plate, um, the cutting dies and layering stencils, and I don't have here, but it also includes a stamp set, and the stamp set mimics the press plate. And we have this beautiful press plate, and it has um, what's three, four different blooms, and they have the stems to the flowers separate, so you got some flexibility in how you use these products. You don't have to have the stems or the greenery if you don't want to, but we have that, and then we have two lovely sentiments. It says wishing you every happiness is one of them, and the other one says you make everything better. So those are the that's the press plate and the sentiments, and then there's the coordinating die that will cut them out. I love this because it's all one piece, so you can do your stenciling all on one panel, and then foil it, die cut it all at one swoop. And then we have the two dies that will cut the two sentiments that are part of this set. And then we have the layering stencils. There are 4 stencils in this set. And then I'm also using the dotted fancy frames. So I've done some work ahead of time, and I'll show you that in just a second. And then for my inks, I have some Color Shift metallic and matte blending inks. In the Color Shift group, I have Watermelon Spritz and Early Sunrise. We're going to put those together for the primary colors in our flowers. And for my greens, I have Festive Fur, which is an interference ink. This one came, I think, as a set of 3 holiday inks, interference inks. There's Festive Fur, Crimson Cheer, and Yuletide Sky. Those come in a set of 3. It was a limited edition. And then I have Eucalyptus Leaves Matte Blending Ink, and those are my 2 greens. And then I have, for shading, I'm using Pick by Paula Agnes Gray. And then for the flower center, I decided to use the metallic pumpkin. So the center of that flower is going to have a pretty little shine to it. So those are the inks that I'm using tonight. Excuse me. And then I wanted to show you well, let me show you the project. This is the project that I made. And I took one of the flowers that I had left over and made decorated the envelope, and then here is the card. Now for this one I used Coral Beach and Watermelon Spritz for my pink colors, and that's Coral Beach in the back. So I'm going to be changing up the colors and see how I like them. I'm trying to see if I can get something that is a little more vibrant, but we'll see how that turns out. And then these are the fancy frames, and I'll show you those die cut pieces here in a second. And then for the inside, I just used one of the other flowers that I had left over, and that is the project sample. And then I did my die cutting ahead of time, and I wanted to show you the die cuts that I made. And so here they are. This one I created using these 2 outer outer dies, and it creates this thin little frame. And then for this one, I use these two dies, which is the third die, and then the, let's see, that'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, the fifth die to create this. And I left the tape on the two dies so you could see them, because when you are die cutting and you want to use more than one, you want to tape your dies together so that they'll keep that same distance. So if there's any slight imperfection in the spacing of these two dies, you won't have an issue when you try to stack them. So I did stack 3 of those die cuts together for this piece. And then this die is just the outer die all by itself. So that's that one. And then of course I did go ahead and foiled my sentiments, and I stacked them. There's 2 behind the foiled sentiments. So those are there, and I did that ahead of time. So that is the homework all done. And I'm going to bring in, move this out of the way, and we'll start with the foiling. So let me get my Glimmer hot foil. It is ready for me to go ahead and get started. You can, it's been heating up while I was talking. And then I'll bring the press plate. I love press plates because you can ink these and use the Better Press with them, or you can foil them, and press plates foil beautifully. So I'm going to pull this out of here. I think that is my intention. I'm trying not to tear up my cellophane because I do keep them in the original packaging. I like Pinkfresh Studio because they put a piece of magnet in their packaging, so your dies will stay nicely. So I'm going to go ahead and put this press plate down, and I have a piece of gold foil that I'm going to foil. I'm putting the shiny side down, and I'm going to hit that timer and let that foil get heated. And then I'll add my piece of cardstock to the top. It doesn't matter, you can actually put it on now. I've got a pretty large piece of paper here, bigger than I actually need. But we're going to go ahead and let that foil. As soon as the timer stops, it'll be ready, and I'll just run it through my Platinum 6 die cut and embossing machine. So while we're doing that, I'm going to pull out get my little tacky mat, because we're going to be doing some stenciling. There's only 4 stencils. Sorry about the noise. There's only 4 stencils, so I'll get that ready for me. Okay, and it looks like we're all done here. The timer says we're good to go, so I'll pull that out. And then I'll add you the 2 plates. There's a green plate and a clear plate. And the green plate is the heat resistant one, so that one goes down first. And then I'm just going to run this whole thing through my Platinum 6. And we'll get the foiling onto this piece of white cardstock that I used. So let me move this out of the way. And bring this out. And here's our foiled piece, and I'll move this over to the side. Okay, so let's go ahead and remove our foil. And then we have our pretty gold foiled elements there. And now I'll bring in my little sticky mat and we can start the stenciling. I'm just going to stencil right on top of my foiling and move that so you can see. Okay. And there are 4 stencils. The first stencil is the floral images. There's 2 for the florals and 2 for the greenery. Well, if I can get them all out of this package. There we go. So there. All right. So, and I'm just going to line this up with the images that are here. And then I'll be ready. I'm going to probably put some tape down only because this stencil is not, it doesn't have any place to grip onto my sticky mat because of how I cut my paper. So I'm just going to use some tape just to make sure that stencil doesn't move on me. And that looks like it's lined up pretty good. And we're going to start with, I'm changing the colors, so I'm going to start with Early Sunrise. Let me move this down so you can see the colors a little bit better. And so I'm just going to ink this up and just color it in. The one thing when you are ink blending over your foiling, you want to be sure to wipe it off so that the ink isn't dulling your foil. So I'm going to be doing that in between layers. But this is a really quick stencil, so I don't have to worry about it drying too quickly on me. So let me grab a cloth here and then we'll just wipe over that so we don't lose any of our shimmer. Okay, and then that is going to be, that's all there is for stencil number 1. And then we'll bring in the second stencil and we'll do the other part of the florals. And for this one, I'm going to line that up. It looks pretty good there. And tape it down. And then we're going to switch our colors and use the watermelon spritz for this one. So these colors will be a little brighter than the sample. So we'll see how this works out. I think it's going to be okay, but we'll know soon enough. And then just go in and color this, ink this up. Get one more ink on my brush here. Really simple. And I'm thinking these 2 colors are going to go well together. We'll see. And if we don't like it, we'll know for the next time. So a couple of these are, these little openings are over top of the already inked orange color. So it's going to give you a little different shading there. And then we're going to add some shading of our own too. So that's really all we need to do with that. And then I'm going to come in with Agnes Gray and add just a hint of shading on this one. It doesn't really need a whole lot, but just to accentuate those flower centers just a little bit more. And let me go ahead. I want to wipe some of this off. so that I'm not contaminating my brush too much. Okay, and then I'll just take this gray and just right in the centers there, just a little teeny bit, and a little bit here underneath where there might be a shadow in the floral. It's very, I don't even know if the camera's picking it up, but it's there. It's just a little light shadowing, and we'll do the same thing over here. Grab a little bit of this flower center right here, and just the teeniest bit of this gray right in there. And I think that's really kind of all we need. Maybe a little bit under there. And over here, just a teeny bit at the base, maybe. And that one is, the other one's so little, it doesn't even matter. So that will take care of, let me wipe this off one more time, so I don't have any ink on my foil. So yeah, I do like those two colors together. It's more orange than the sample, and I like that. So that's what we'll do there. And then for the inside of the flower, I've got the pumpkin. And so I'm going to do my flower centers and this set of leaves next. Let me find my tape here. And then I'm going to do pumpkin for that center, because it's a metallic ink and it'll give a lot of shine. So we're just going to go in with this one, and we'll just have a nice shiny center there. And then there is some foiling in the center of that, so I'm going to wipe that off as well. Okay, and then this one, we are going to use our eucalyptus leaves and our festive fir. So I think I'll start with the festive fir first on these leaves, and then come back in with the eucalyptus for the darker color. So we'll just, let me double check and make sure I've got these leaves exactly where I want them on the stencil. I do. Okay. So then we're just going to come in with this lighter green. You can make it darker if you want, but I'm just going a little lighter, and then I'm going to use the eucalyptus to get a darker green added to it. So these are green, but they're really going to be a light pale green. And we'll add eucalyptus to it later there, and that will give us some variation of greens in our leaves. Really, I like this one because it's really quick, and I like that they give you the option to do the flower stem separate, because you might not always want, you might just want the flower pod sometimes. So that's nice that they've given you that option. So I'm gonna wipe that off, get that ink off of the foil, and we'll bring in the other stencil and line it up with the stems that are there. Get it angled right properly. Okay, wait a minute. There we go. Yeah, that looks right. And I just moved it, of course. Try not to ink over top of my foiling. And we'll put that down, and we'll swap out Festive fir for eucalyptus leaves. And so we're adding some of these stems, or all the stems are going to be the darker green, but we're going to add a little bit more color to some of the existing leaves, and we're adding in some darker leaves with this color. Get these stems nice and solid. And come in here with the darker. Really quick and easy. This is it for all the inking that we need to do for this one. Really quick. Okay, and I'll wipe this off again. Okay, so that is it for all of our inking. And then we can, let me see, I'm gonna put these on here because we are done inking. I'll take this off and we can finish our card. Okay. Move this out of the way. Okay, so now we have our panel that's all done, and we can bring in the die that is one piece, and it'll cut everything in one fell swoop, which is nice. There we go. All right, and get some tape. Well, I can use this tape. I can probably just cut this, tear this apart, and use what I've been using and get this lined up. And run it through. Once I get it, I'm trying to look at all of the places, making sure that they are within, let's see, looking at this one down here, it's not there. That looks about right. That one. Checking the stems. I think we're okay. It's going to be pretty close. And a lot of the stems aren't going to be showing in this design anyway. But the ones that are, we do want to get them as straight as we can. Okay, so I'm going to tape that down there. And I'm going to run this through my Platinum 6 over here. And we'll have all our little pieces. Well, all right, now we go. Got tape in the way and everything else. There we go. Pull this over. And move this out of the way. And then we can start putting our flower together. We have several flowers actually that we need to put together. And So there, these are all of our floral pieces. And what I did was I used the back of the die kind of as a guide to know which of the pieces go where. So with the bigger flower, I know that it uses this one. So I try to kind of put them how they go together. And with this little one, it uses this one. And this one uses this one. Nope, that's wrong. This one uses this one, and this one goes over here. So those are the pieces that I'm going to put together. And then the rest of them, I'm just going to use them to tuck and add to. So we'll go ahead and glue these down. And I'm really only putting glue right on the, right where they connect. Not worrying too much about other places right now. And I want that over just a wee bit. Yeah. And this one. And you can really mix and match these however you like them. I just kind of followed the guide that they had for, you know what? Yeah, I did this right. I always want to put this one on the bigger one, but it doesn't really need to go that way. So this one kind of sits on there like this. There's a little bit of that leaf showing underneath this petal. Yeah. And then this one just sits on here. Like that. Okay, so I'm going to be using primarily these two and the greenery for the flower, or for the front of the card rather. And move that out of the way. So let me pull in my homework. And before I do that, the first thing I want to do, I do have one bit of inking left to do. I want to add some color to this panel. So I think I'm going to go with the early sunrise. And I'm just going to take a big 1-inch brush because I don't want heavy color, but I do want color. Let me wipe that off. I don't want to glue down my panel. So I'm just going to just put a light coating of color on this panel. So it'll coordinate well with our flower. And come in, and if the center is a little lighter than the outside, that's going to be fine the way the design is. And I typically have a piece of paper because my nails, I'm always getting them in the ink and then it messes up my project. Okay. Turn that around. And it's okay for the edges to be a little darker. Just want to kind of get a nice coating of color with the centers pretty much the center light. Okay, so that I think is going to be just fine. I want to wipe that off. And then we've got our die cuts that we are going to arrange. First thing I want to do is put this piece onto my inked up piece. So we'll just put some glue around all the way around the back of this little teeny frame. These dies are really pretty. I love the shape of them. And there's a lot that you can do. Lots of combinations you can come up with. You can get all different size frames. Lots of outline, little frames like this one you can create. Very handy. Nice addition to your stash. And I think that's going to do it for that. Then I'll put this on. Trying to be careful not to wiggle it around too much, because I don't want glue going anywhere that it's not supposed to. And you could also die cut this with double-sided tape and not have to worry with the glue as an option. So there is that. And now we need to go ahead and add this to our card front. And I'm going to burnish these edges just a little bit. Okay. And then we'll just put this in the center. This is an A2 size card, so this frame will fit perfectly. And I'm just going to use glue to add that to the card front, or the back of this when I'm adding it to the card front. Hope you're having a good week. It's almost over. Woohoo! Of course, I'm not rushing a week because I'm not ready for Christmas yet. I made great progress this week. Most of my shopping is done, but I still have a few things to do. And my cards are all ready for the mail. Well, mostly all ready for the mail. I have a few that I have to put some finishing touches on. And okay, so that is it for the card front. And then I'm going to add this to this panel, but I'm going to use some little foam squares to do that, so that I have room to tuck my florals. So just put these on. I'm being very generous with my foam squares, because if I decide to mail this, I want to make sure it's got lots of support so it doesn't buckle. I think it'll be fine whether I mail it or hand deliver. But just in case, that's why I wanted to use those extra pieces behind it. And then I think for the sides, I'm going to cut these in half just to be sure. Let's see. Is that going to fit on there? Yeah, I think we're good with that. And then I'll get my scissors and I'll cut a few of these in half and stick those on to go down the sides. And well, my half isn't quite half, but it's good enough for what I need. Just want to make sure we've got that height all around. And that one, it was ready to stick whether I was ready or not. Okay. All right, so I will go ahead and pull these backing off. I forget to take this bracelet off and it clinks around sometimes. Oops, we have a runaway. So this one is super easy. All my cards are easy though. I like easy. I have enough things stressing my life. I don't want my crafting to be stressful. Simple, easy, and elegant. That is my style. Okay, so we've got that all. Oh, try to move these pieces out of the way. And then we'll just go ahead and put this panel onto the card front. And just kind of lining up the, get my fingers out of the way here. And getting it, just eyeballing it. It doesn't have to be perfect. Get as close as you can to the center. And that looks pretty good to me. And then we can arrange our flowers around around the frame. So what I want to do, I just want these two. So I think this one will do, and I'm going to trim off part of this because we don't need it all. And just stick that, well, I may even, how did I found a hole before. Aha, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to need a piece of a foam square there at the top of this one. And let me make sure I put it on the right side. Yeah. Find that hole again. There it is. Well, what happened to it? There it is. I see it there. Okay. And then I'll turn that. Okay, so that's what we'll do. I'll put a little bit of glue on this part and put this down. And I've got space in between. Just got to make sure I find it before I put it down. There we go. And just put that there. And then I'll do this second flower down here. I'll find a little hole. There's one. That's good. I'll put it in there, and then I can fill in with the greenery. So, oh, here it is right here, right in front of my face. And I wasn't seeing it. Okay. So maybe I'll put, I probably should have done it a little differently, but since I stuck that down there, I'm going to put these two little small pieces over here just to make sure that that doesn't bend in the center. Okay. And then we'll stick this one down here. Like so. Okay, and then we'll fill in with our greenery. And a lot of times I'll do all this ahead of time to see my placement, to check my placement. But it doesn't really matter. So I'm just going to stick these in here for now to see what I like where, because I've only got a couple pieces that I have to worry with. So I think that'll be good. That'll be good. And we can put this one maybe up here. Something like that. Yeah, because I just want to kind of have greenery going around. I might even trim this down just a wee bit. I could even maybe, okay, so that'll be fine. And this one, I might even, let me try snipping this apart. I don't really need to, but I'm thinking it'll give me a little bit. Maybe not. I thought it might give me the ability to swing that around the other way, but it doesn't. That's fine though. I like that. It'll be okay. Okay, so I'll go ahead and add some glue and stick those in. Let me get some of this mess out of the way. My goodness. Messy Bessie today. Okay, so we'll go ahead and add some glue. I think I'll put it on both sides on this piece. And let that adhere to this flower. And I don't want to stick it down. I like it having that extra dimension. Runaway tape. Mess everywhere. Okay. And then we'll do the same thing for this one. I'll put some glue on both sides. Oops, I got a little Chad sticking in there. Still didn't get it off, did I? There we go. I'll put it on both sides and stick it down in the hole that I've created. And I think I want to have it go more this way. Yeah. Here we go. So we have, oops. I'll pull that up. And I could, no, I'll leave it. I was thinking I might cut this and stick it underneath that flower, but I don't want to risk it. I think that'll be fine. And then the last thing we want to do is add our sentiment. And we're just going to, well, it's not the last thing, next to the last thing we want to do is add some glue to the ends. And I did a couple of extra pieces behind this sentiment so that it would have the strength it needs to not fold. Okay. So do you want everything better? No, I think I want to use the other one. I want wishing you every happiness. I like that sentiment the best because of the two, because it's more multi-occasion. I can use it for birthday, or if someone's getting married, or if it's an anniversary. So I like the multi-use sentiment. I'm going to hold this here with my fingers for just a minute or two, just to give it a chance to grab. And I might even stick a piece of, I think I will. I'll cut one of the foam squares and just put a little, about a half of a piece underneath that sentiment in case it should decide at some point in the future that it wants to hang low. It won't have anywhere to go. So I'm gonna, well, if I get this off my fingers, we can stick that right. Well, I need to lift it just a little bit. There we go. So it's got some cushion, so it's not falling down anywhere. And then the last thing we want to do is add our embellishments. And I've got the Fashion Gold Embellishments by Spellbinders for this part. We're just going to add a few gold baubles. And we'll be able to call this one done. Let's see. Put one here. And do I have any medium-sized ones? Yeah, I do have a couple. And we'll do the opposite over here. And one final one, I need a medium-sized one that I may not have. Well, we'll just use this one then. How about that? And we'll stick that right in there. Yeah, like so. Okay, so there is our project. And, oh, my sentiment is a little bit crooked. Let me see if I can fix that. I might be able to get that up. Yeah. Okay. There we go. That's better. Okay, so that is today's project. I hope that you like it. I thank you for watching. If you're watching live, thank you for being here. For those who may watch me remotely later, the replay, I thank you for stopping by and checking us out. I appreciate every view that I get. Please, if you would, give me a thumbs up if you like the project. And come back and see me again. I'll be back next week. I'll have another card to share. And I will be on my blog Wednesday at elegantsentiments.com, and you can also find me at Elegant Sentiments Limited on Facebook. I'm not out there too often, but I do pop out there every now and again and put something out there. But thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. Hope you have a fantastic week, and we will see you next time. I hope that you can find some time to craft a little kindness of your own this week, and we will see you next time. Bye for now.